Okay, so learning how to hit more of a draw of a shot. So a lot of us weekend players I see, they fight coming over the top and getting really steep with this thing. So I've heard all kinds of stuff out there on how to shallow the club and create more of a draw. There's some key things you can do, I think, that can help a lot. One is getting our hands on the club. I have a grip video out there and talking about having probably a little bit stronger to neutral grip, something that looks a little bit more like this on the club, versus this. This is really weak here, and weak is just a terminology. It's not a cut at it or anything. I mean, derogatory term. There's weak and there's strong. And there's some very good players who have weak grips, but I think there's better ball strikers, a lot more of them that have more of a neutral to strong grip. Freddie Couples, Bernhard Langer, Azinger had really, really strong grips. You can feel what this feels like in your elbow and stuff. It might be a little bit too much for us, but it worked fine for them. But that gets the club face closing a little bit, and the more the club face is a little bit closed at impact, the more we can draw the ball. Kind of similar if you've ever played ping pong and you're hitting sort of an overhand shot that will hook on there, you'll do this with the paddle. If you want to cut it, you'll do that with the paddle. Very easy way to get a sense of what the club face is doing. If we get the club, going like this through the ball, we're going to create more of a draw, and if we get it going more like this through the ball, we're going to create more of a cut or a fade. So back to getting out of slicing the ball and hitting more of a draw. That's one piece, is just the grip. Setup can make a big difference too. I have a little bit of tilt here in my setup. My hip is forward, my head is back. I want my head behind the ball, behind the club, throughout the swing until I get to the ball. Once I get to the ball, I let my arms pull me up into my finish, and I'm not trying to get there too soon. I think that's what happens to a lot of people, is they get way out in front of the ball soon. This opens up the shoulders and creates more of a cutting of the ball. Keeping my head behind the ball will get the club coming a little more shallow on it. Again, going to here with this, if I get in here and just kind of close off my hips and shoulders, which is, closing off is this way, opening them up is this way. So I'll get in here and just kind of close off a little bit. And what that does, it creates a little bit of tilt. So I'll create a little bit of tilt with this. I'll take this to the top. I'm turned behind the ball. My first move down is always going to be like a little shift to the left foot. Bump my hip to the left, push my weight into my left heel, drop the arms, and hit through it. When I do that, the club naturally comes from underneath. And the second part of this, I want to let those arms just release. I want to let that right arm pass the left after the ball's gone. Or another good way to think of it is just letting the arm fold up, also known as releasing the club. That's going to keep it square. I've got a little diagram down here, and this line here is my target, and this line is going to be, here's my path. So I'm going to, as I keep my head behind the ball and bump my hip, I start to emulate that path a bit. So you can see that. So I'll get in here, I'm going to keep my head behind the ball. I've got my hip forward, my head back. Take this back. And that club's coming more from underneath. I'll do that again. So I'm going to get in here, I'm going to set up like this. I'm going to take this to the top. I'm going to bump that hip. That's how we start from the ground up. Bump that hip. That's squared up here, and I'm going to go ahead and swing. Good. Good draw there. But you'll start to see the ball doing more of this in your flight. So the basics are a little stronger grip. Keep your head behind it, bump that hip forward on the way down, and let those arms release. Between those three things, you're going to start to put more of a right to left shape on the ball, or a draw. If you're a left-handed player, a little left to right. But that's how we're going to hit a draw. Again, text me if you have any questions, or if we could get together personally.